Welcome on in, everybody, to the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, and we have a big episode coming up today. It's episode 78, and we're going to be looking at AFLW Grand Final week. Biggest day of their season coming up on Saturday. We'll be running through our preview for that match coming up today. We'll be looking at who will win. Will the Kangaroos finally break through for their first AFLW Premiership? Or will it be going to Brisbane for back-to-back titles and their third overall Grand Final rematch of last year? It's the same two teams going at it again. So we're going to be jumping into all of that coming up. That will be the last bit of the episode. Before we do that, though, we will be starting with AFLW Awards night, which was on Monday night. So we'll be looking at all the award winners, and then we will be jumping into a review of both matches from prelim final weekend, which was last weekend, and then, as I said, finishing off with a preview of the grand final, including all my tips for the big game, and also best on ground medal and first goal kickers. So without any further ado, let's jump into episode 78, AFLW Grand Final week, and we'll start with the award winners from AFL Awards night the other day. We'll start off with Mark of the Year and Goal of the Year. Mark of the Year going to Matilda Scholes. Fantastic grab. I don't think there was too much doubt in who would win. Sorry, got a little distracted. I think most people probably thought that she'd win it. It was a great grab. I mean, all three options were great grabs. Hers was on the same day. We nearly had Goal of the Year as well, but Houghton's was just beaten out in the end. So yes, Scholes started her night. I can't remember which order they did the awards, but she had a fantastic night, as you'll see in a minute. Started with this. Goal of the Year went to Hannah Munyard. Check side from the boundary. Right foot banana from the boundary. Fantastic goal. She only kicked 3 goals for the year, so for one of them to be Goal of the Year, fantastic effort. Once again, all 3 goals that were nominated were great. This one was, I'm happy with this being Goal of the Year. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was a fantastic goal from Hannah. So, that's Mark and Goal of the Year, which were the first 2 awards we look at. Next up, Rising Star Award. Just like we just mentioned, Matilda Scholes continued her fantastic season and her fantastic night, getting Telstra Rising Star Award. I think it was pretty clear she was the best player this year. Obviously not first year player. She was a member of Port Adelaide's team last year, the way Rising Star works. Just like in AFL, it goes by maximum amount of games as well as age. So she met the criteria, played 13 games this year, was outstanding and got better as the season went along, really. Her finish of the year was fantastic. Her performance in the semi-final against Hawthorn was insane in that last quarter. Ends up averaging 13 touches a game, 22 hit-outs a game, kicked 3 goals for the season, 13 matches. Fantastic return. And in a crazy bit of work, Port Adelaide also had second best in the Rising Star voting. Goody averaged also 13 touches a game. More of a traditional midfielder, I guess. But obviously Scholes is a ruckman. Fantastic debut season from Goody. No doubt about it. Really good performance. Sorry, I've just lost some of my stats, which was throwing me off. So, yeah, fantastic from both of them. Third place went to Amy Gaylor from Essendon. General defender, typically. 12 disposals a game, some good metre gained. Pretty good season from her. 54 fantasy points a game. Kicked a goal as well, so not just a defender. Good performance. Another defender, this one more of a full-time defender in Lucy Cronin for Collingwood. Key defender. Not too often you get good young key defenders, but I think Lucy Cronin clearly was the bright spark in a pretty dismal Collingwood season, in all honesty. Played every game in the end. All 11 matches for Collingwood. Averaged 11 disposals. Some really good defensive work with her spoiling and her intercept marks and such. Sorry, I was all over the place trying to figure out what I was trying to say. Yeah, just a really, really good season from her in otherwise forgettable season for the Pies. And in fifth place was Beth Schilling from West Coast. Another key defender. Solid year. Nothing overly exciting. Clearly, I think Lucy Cronin was the best key defender. First year, person nominated. But really good season as well from Beth Schilling. So that's the top 5 in the Rising Star Award this year. Next we move on to All-Australian Team. And as you can see there, thanks to AFLW website, there's the graphic. That's everyone that made the team this year. Start off, backline, Chelsea Biddell from the Crows. Key defender, once again, didn't miss any games. Really good season from her. Next was Brianna Tarrant from Sydney in what was not a great season for Sydney. Another team that kind of really struggled most of the year. Really good performance as a key defender there, though. Next up was Tilly Lucas Rod from Hawthorn. I can't spell. General defender, running defender. Averaged 20 disposals a game, so some really good numbers. 330 metres gained per match as well. Yeah, no complaints on what Tilly Lucas Rod did this season. Had an interesting few seasons, but come out with an All-Australian nod this year, so fantastic effort from Tilly. Next was Emma O'Driscoll from Fremantle. Jesus. Jeez Louise, I lost me brain there for a second. Another general defender, 16 disposals a game, so a bit less than Tilly, but nonetheless a really good performance this year. Final defender on the field, Madison Gay from the Bombers. Another that averaged about 20 disposals a game, 450 metres gained per match. So really good numbers there. Not too many clangers or turnovers. Some good rebounding all season long. A fantastic performance. 7.5 intercept possessions per game is really good as well. Move on to the midfield. We start with the wing. We have Sophie Conway. 17.4 disposals a game, 368 metres gained. I think wing is probably one of the harder positions typically to find really good players. Sophie Conway has been one that has typically over the last few years been one of the best at that. Next, Ash Riddell from the Roos. I think we'll see how good Ash is this weekend in the Grand Final. as we'll see also shortly, did really well in the BNF, AFLW BNF voting. Really good season from Ash. 29.3 disposals a game, so I think second best in the AFLW, only behind Ebony Marinoff. Some very low clanger numbers, so looks after the ball really well, intercepts it pretty well, wins the ball, clearances, does it all. You name it, Ash can do it. Ella Roberts, one of the best young talents we have in the AFLW, just 20 years of age, played every game, had over 20 disposals a game. Looks like she will be a star of the future. Over 3.5 clearances a game. Kicked 6 goals for the season as well, so really good performance from Ella. Ruckman, I don't think there's any doubt who was the best ruckman in the competition this year. It was Mim Strom. I think clearly, in my opinion. Scholes is probably the future best, but at the moment it's still Mim Strom. Led the league in hitouts, 37 a game, just about. Doesn't hit the scoreboard too much, just the 1 goal for the season, 2.1 score involvements a game. Does get 11 contested possessions a game out of the 16.5 that they average. So a really, really good season. I think clearly the standout ruckman. Now for probably the best 2 players in the game, Jasmine Garner. Another one that averages a lot of touches for the Kangaroos, and I think once again we'll see Jasmine at the best this weekend. At the moment, favourite for best on ground in the grand final. As I said, 26 touches a game, really good metres gained at 452 metres per game. 6 clearances a match, which is up there with the best in the competition. Really complements the game of Ash Riddell really well, and hence why they're both in here. They both polled really well. They both are clearly 2 of the best players in the competition. Arguably, a lot of people believe is the best player in the competition. Probably the biggest challenger to that is the vice captain of the team. By the way, Jasmine Garner was captain, and that's Ebony Marinoff. Incredible season from Ebony. 30.5 disposals per game. Led the competition in that. Led the competition in a lot of stats, in all honesty. Clearances, 6.4. Kicked 4 goals for the season. Got a goal assist every second game, so average 0.5. 4.1 score involvements. One of the craziest stats. 12.2 tackles per game is unreal numbers. That is an insane amount of tackles, in all honesty. To put it into context, the next best in the competition was 9.7 per game, so that's 2.5 tackles more than anybody else per game, which is insanity. Next up, we go to the forward line, and we lead off with Aisling McCarthy. Really good season up forward. 12 matches, kicked 8 goals, so not a massive amount of goals, but gets a lot of the football, 22 touches per match. So is kind of still a midfielder, but does play a bit of half forward flank as well. So good season from McCarthy. Crazily enough, almost the same first name, just H added in. Aisling Maloney, this time, from Geelong, key forward. I think we all know about the exploits of Maloney this year. She kicked 21 goals for the season to lead the competition at the end of the home and away season. No doubt deserves a spot in this team as the leading goal kicker. Next up, we have Aileen Gilroy, general-sized forward. More of a forward than the other forward flank. 14 goals for the season, 13 disposals per game, Really good performance from a Hawthorn team that certainly improved this year. Caitlin Gould is another Crow that has made this team one of many. Key forward, 11.5 disposals a game, 20 goals for the season, so only really just a couple off the best in the competition for the season. So really good goal return and deserves a spot in this team. And then the final forward spot is obviously the other equal leading goal kicker for the home and away season, Taylor Smith. And going into the grand final is the leading goal kicker, including finals. So, in all honesty, it's very hard to see anyone from Kangaroos or Brisbane being able to pass her. So we'll end the season as number one with 22 plus goals on the year. Doesn't get much of the ball, just 7.5 disposals a game, but makes use of it when she does. Moving on to the bench, we start with Chelsea Randall. 33-year-old general defender, still getting it done. 16 disposals a game. Yeah, what more can you say? Just another one of these Crows that just gets the job done week in, week out. Another one of the young stars of the competition, Charlie Rowbottom. One of the best clearance, one of the best contested ball winners, one of the best tacklers we have in the AFLW. Averaged almost 28 disposals a game. Had a couple quiet games that ruined her averages a little bit. 7.6 clearances a match. Almost 8 tackles a game. One of the bright lights up on Gold Coast on a team that hasn't shown us a whole heap so far, but Charlie Rowbottom certainly is a star and deserves a spot in this team. Alice O'Loughlin, general forward. Really good forward craft. I think we'll see her at her best again on this weekend in the grand final. She's kicked 16 goals this season and has really shown up in the finals so far. So I would be surprised if we don't see a good performance from her on the weekend. Ali Anderson, Brisbane's probably premier midfielder, averages 26 touches a game. A lot of that contested. Really good clearance work. Really good week in, week out. Not at the extent of the midfield that starts on the field, but still a really good season from Ali. And then the final member of the team was Belle Dawes from Brisbane, 23-year-old midfielder, 19 touches a game. Another really good season from her. So the average 19 a game is pretty solid in AFLW. There's probably only 4 people, roughly, maybe even less than that get over 20 disposals per match. Probably less than that. There's probably on average 2. So to be close enough to 20 average is a really good performance. That's the all AFLW All Australian team for 2024. No real surprises. I think pretty happy with most of picks in that team. We move on to the best and fairest, and there's your top 10 or so people in the award. I don't think there was too many doubts on who was going to win it, in all honesty. Ebony Marinoff's season, in my opinion, was incredible. 23 out of a possible 33 votes received by Ebony this year, which is an insane effort. As you can see, only missed votes twice in rounds 5 and 9, and everything else was 3s or 2s, including 5 best on grounds, and then 4 second best on grounds. So 9 out of 11 matches she was in the best 2 players on the ground, which is an insane return, no doubt about it. Ash Riddell only missed a couple games in the votes as well, finished 3 votes off. Fantastic season. Probably her and Jasmine Garner take some votes off each other, which probably doesn't help either of their causes, but I mean, that's part of the game. Madison Prospakis was a really, I won't say surprise, I kind of will say a surprise. Not that she polled so well, but because end of the season, Bombers were flying, and as was she. It was that early season where Bombers weren't really winning many games, but Madison really polled really well in that time as well. Emily Bates, no real surprise in the fact that Hawthorn had a fantastic season, so not that surprising that she polled well. Mon Conti, always polls well, let's be honest, won the award last year with, I think, 23 votes. At times looked like maybe would have been in the top 3, pushing over 20 again this year, but there was just a couple games certainly late towards the end of the year where the numbers weren't quite as high as normal. Georgia Nanskuen, another one from the Bombers that polled really well. Those two combined for 35 votes, which is actually more than Ash Riddell and Jasmine Garner combined for. So that's an incredible stat and a really good sign for the Bombers, who did just qualify for finals, but maybe if Bonnie Toogood hadn't got injured early in the season and missed a few weeks, they might have been a little bit higher on the ladder, and you never know, might have given a little bit more of a shake in the finals. Sophie Conway, a fantastic season from her, 4 best on grounds. Eva tends to be best on ground or not in the votes, other than that one time in round 3 when got 2 votes. But a really good season there. Abby Dowrick, another one who had 4 best on grounds, really showed her best this year, and certainly in that second half of the year, is going to be an absolute star, I think, and someone that will be up in the leaderboards for the next few years. Just 22 years of age and really, really came along into her best this season. Jasmine Garner, as we mentioned, arguably a lot of people believe is the best player in the competition. Certainly you can't argue that, really. She's definitely in the top 3. Another fantastic year. Kate Hoare, slow start, but really got firing late when Melbourne were pushing for finals. They didn't get there, but 3 best on grounds in the last few weeks. Really good. Ella Roberts, another one that's had a great season. A future star, absolutely. So really good voting from her. And as West Coast develop and become a better team, we'll potentially see Ella poll a bit more, and Eliza West, fantastic season for the Hawks. Certainly one of their best couple players this season in a team that really performed quite well. So congratulations to all of them, but especially Ebony Marinoff, who I think arguably was clearly, I think was the best player in the competition this season. Just week in, week out, absolute domination from Ebony, or Noffy as they call her. So that's all of awards night looked at. We'll jump into the prelim final weekend and have a look at the 2 games that were on. We started off, they were both on Saturday, but Saturday afternoon in the hot conditions, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. As you can see, scoreboard was a bit of a thrashing. It was 12-6, 78 to 2-9, 21. So some poor kicking from Port Adelaide. But in all honesty, this game was over very, very early. First quarter, 4 goals to none, and those 4 goals came in about a 5-minute stretch. Jasmine Garner got the first, then Randall, and then Alice O'Loughlin got the last 2 of that stretch, which was just over 6 minutes of real time, so even less than 6 minutes of playing time. And it looked very dangerous from already at that point, and they went into quarter time 26-0. They came out in the second quarter and did it again. Kicked a couple early ones. Talia Randall, Taylor Gates, then Kate Sherlaw kicked the last 2 of the first half to go in 52-2 at half time. And it's pretty much over at that point. It was hot. It was not easy conditions, but the Kangaroos showed up in this one and absolutely got the job done. Came out in the third quarter and just continued on their way. Kicked another 3-0 in the third quarter. Vicky Wall got the first 2, and then Taylor got her second late in the third to be 71-6 at 3-quarter time. Final quarter, Port Adelaide finally got the breakthrough. Gemma Houghton kicked one. Vicky Wall got her third for the Kangaroos before Caitlin Pope kicked the last, and it ended up being, as we said, 78-21. A bit of a domination for the Kangaroos. And when you look at the stats for the match, it was pretty much that domination as well. We had plus 80 for the Kangaroos in disposals, plus 14 inside 50s. Hit-outs were won by Port Adelaide, but hit-outs doesn't really matter. Clearances were plus 2 to Port Adelaide, but centre clearances were 8-5 in favour of the Roos. Contested footy was pretty close, only plus 8 for the Roos, but uncontested was where they dominated this game, plus 63. Turnovers, another area that they dominated, which tends to be the way. If you're dominating uncontested footy, you're usually dominating the turnover game. 52 for the Kangaroos is a pretty decent number. 63 for Port Adelaide is certainly above average for amount of turnovers, so not great in that regard. Tackles was 74-79, so Port Adelaide did tackle pretty well. They also tackled well inside their 50, 23-20, but they just couldn't convert it into scores. A look at the best players as we went through the goal kickers. Obviously, all Kangaroos dominate the score sheet. Vicky Wall got 3, and then Sherlaw, Randall, O'Loughlin, and Taylor Gatt all got 2 each. Best players, week in, week out. It's usually the top 2 for the Kangaroos. It's Ash Riddell with 28 touches, really good game. But best on ground, Jasmine Garner, 26 touches a goal, 8 clearances, 519 metres gained. It's those two every week. There's other players that do play well for the Roos, but it is those two week in, week out. As we said, Vicky Wall kicked 3 goals, probably would have been in the votes if it was BNF. AFLW BNF, that is. For the club BNF, will probably poll pretty well. I don't know how the Kangaroos voting works, but I'd expect to see pretty good performance from Vicky on the night. Plenty of other decent players, but then for Port Adelaide, just no standouts outside of Abby Dowrick, who's obviously had a really good season, had 18 touches, kicked 2 behind, so had to put them in. Might have been a little bit more respectable, the scoreline, but in the end, it was one-way traffic. North Melbourne had this game under control from early on and pretty much all the way through. The second prelim final was probably the one that was expected to be the closer one, and for the first 2.5 quarters it was the closer one, but Brisbane just blew them away in that last quarter and a half, put them to bed, and won it 7-8-50 to 4-8-32, so a disappointing end to the Crows season. A bit of a stalemate early, both teams were wasting chances. It was 0-3 to 0-3 late in the first quarter before Chelsea Randall kicked the first one for the Crows to give them a 6-point lead at quarter time. Second quarter, it was a bit of a hit and miss, back and forward sort of game. Caitlin Gould got the first before Dakota Davidson got one, and Courtney Hodder kicked one to tie it up late in the second before Chelsea Randall got her second goal of the match right before half-time to give them a 23-16 lead. So Adelaide still looking in a great spot at half-time. Brisbane did manage the first one of the third quarter through Ellie Hampson. Crows missed a couple opportunities early in that third quarter, and then it was all bad news from then on. Without a doubt, the Lions put them away here. They kicked the last 3 of the third quarter. They kicked the first one of the fourth, just to put it out of reach, really, before the Crows did kick the last. Jade Ellinger got the first of the run through some good defensive work from her teammates. Kathy Spark and Dakota Davidson got a second, which was the last of the third quarter. Bit of a stalemate early in the last before Isabel Dawes got the first of the last quarter. And then, as we said, Adelaide did kick the last through Keely Kusterman, but that was game over already, and they lost it by 18 points for Brisbane to progress into the grand final for the second year in a row. Disposals, not too much difference between the two teams. Plus 12 for Brisbane. Inside 50s was 37 to 34 in favour of Brisbane. Interestingly, free kick count was heavily in favour of the home team Brisbane Lions, 18 to 8. Was that fully the way it should have been? If you watch the game, I'll let you decide. Clearances, 25 to 24 in favour of the Crows. Contested footy was won by Brisbane, whereas uncontested footy was plus 5 for the Crows. Turnover count was dead on even, 66 apiece, which is quite a high number for both teams, but there was a lot of contested footy in this game. Marks was 56 to 38, so even though Adelaide controlled uncontested football, they weren't marking it as much as Brisbane, so maybe that's a bad sign for them in this one. Tackle count 74 for Brisbane, which is smack on their average, but just 54 for the Crows, which is minus 16 on their average, so a bit of a disappointing result there. We look at best players, 2 multiple goal scorers, Chelsea Randall, both in the first half, and then Dakota Davidson also kicked 2. And then we look at best players. For Brisbane, they won the match, so we'll look at them first. Who was best on ground? Arguably could go to any one of probably 6 or 7 of their players. They had a very even performance. O'Dwyer and Ali Anderson both had 24 touches in good performances. 604 metres gained for Ola O'Dwyer as well. Nat Grider was really good, 9 tackles, 7 marks, 18 disposals. Isabel Dawes was good. Ellinger was good with 16 touches and a crucial goal. Conway was good. Dakota Davidson kicked 2, really good for the Crows. Their best players did stand up, but maybe didn't have enough support. Ebony Marinoff, 30 disposals, 10 tackles, 5 clearances, 569 metres gained. Certainly, I think best on ground again, but just didn't have enough support. Anne Hatchard, 25 touches, really good game. And Chelsea Randall, 18 touches, 2 goals. So the best players for Crows did stand up, but maybe the rest didn't quite so much. And that leads us to the grand final. But before we look to that game, there's my tips for last weekend. We went North Melbourne, we got it right. It was a bit more of a margin than we expected, but we got the other game wrong. So we split them, 1 and 2. We're at 75 out of 106 for the season. 1 game to go. Do we get 76 for the year? So yeah, that's last week's games. We'll now move into the AFLW Grand Final. It is happening this weekend. At 7:45 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, so Melbourne time, Icon Park. Sellout crowd already. It will be about only 12,000 there. It would be good to see it at a ground where perhaps they can get a bit more than 12 grand in, but I think they certainly could have a crowd of 30k plus if the venue permitted it. But that's neither here nor there. It should be a cracker. Obviously a rematch of last year's grand final. Last year's grand final was a really good game. It was game on all the way through, even to three-quarter time. I think the Kangaroos were leading, and there was just a Brisbane domination in that last quarter that kind of put it to bed, which is kind of what they did to Adelaide last week. Kangaroos will be going in heavy favourites for this. There's no doubt about it. Like, they haven't lost a game this season. They did draw in round 2, but, I mean, they haven't lost a game for the whole year. And these two teams did meet in round 1, in which the Kangaroos absolutely demolished Brisbane. I think it was in the end like 60 points or 50-something points maybe, and it was all done in that first half. They flogged them. Okay, 44 points, sorry. Brisbane did kick a few goals in that last quarter, I think, but 78 to 34 was a domination. They obviously met last year, grand final, December 3rd, so pretty much to a year to the day, and Brisbane won it 44 to 27. So Kangaroos kind of got their revenge, I guess, in round one, but it doesn't mean much round one when you lost the grand final. So this is their chance. This is their chance to get their first premiership. They get a chance to make up for losing last year. And yeah, we'll see if they can do it. They're certainly going to be going in expected to be favourites. Teams have just been announced apparently, and there is no change for either team from last week's games. So that's good news for both teams, that they don't lose anyone through injury. Yeah. Who wins, who doesn't, who plays good. It will be hopefully a good game. I'm not sure what the weather is going to be in Melbourne this weekend, but hopefully we get some good weather. It is a Saturday night game. Last year I think was a Sunday afternoon grand final. I have the game up so I could tell you. Yep, Sunday afternoon grand final last year. So the Saturday night fixture I think is a good one. At this time of year, there's no reason the grand final shouldn't be at night time. Slightly cooler weather. Hopefully they put on a good spectacle. Doesn't mean they will, but let's hope that they do. And we'll see what happens. But it was all the tall forwards of Brisbane that took over the game in the last quarter in last year's grand final. Dakota Davidson mainly kicked a couple in the space of 5 minutes before Ellie Hampson got one. That just turned the game from Kangaroos leading by 7 points going into the final change to ending up losing by 17 points. So Brisbane, really good performance. Last year's grand final, Kangaroos have been the better team this year. There's no doubt about it. Kangaroos are by far the best team in the competition this year, but this Brisbane team is dangerous. They know what they're doing. They've won a fair chunk of these players, have already won 2 premierships. And a lot of them are playing in this will be their 4th grand final. They have a lot of experience in this situation. So you have to think that they're going to be dangerous in this one. Obviously, they have won the last men's, they've won the last women's grand finals, and they just keep qualifying for grand finals, and they're starting to win them. They lost 2, then they won 2. Now this could be the deciding one. Should be an absolute cracker. I'll be tuning in, sitting in on my couch, having a beer, watching this one, and I genuinely am very excited for it. I can't wait to see who comes out on top. But I think it's going to be Kangaroos. They just have the higher top end talent in my eyes. Between Jasmine Garner and Ash Riddell, both fantastic players. Last year's grand final, Jasmine Garner was at her best. I think Ash Riddell was probably a little bit off her best last year in the grand final. So hopefully for her sake, a better performance in this year's. We'll see how that plays out. But that is the game coming up. And now we've just got my predictions for the match to have a look at. And there they are. I've gone Kangaroos. I know it's the fancy, it's the top tip. They've just been that good. I can't go against them. I know Brisbane have the experience in grand finals. They have the success over many years, but I just can't go past them. I've gone by 15 points for the Kangaroos. I think it will be close most of the way, and they'll be hoping that they don't just get run over the top of in the last quarter like they did last year. Best on ground, I've done one from each team for both of these two things. Kangaroos ones are the ones I think are most likely. The Brisbane ones are just the best options from that team. So best on ground, I think Ash Riddell. Obviously, there's 2 people from the Kangaroos that are expected to be their best, Ash Riddell and Jasmine Garner. I've gone Riddell. Arguably could be either of them. If Kangaroos win, they both will have played a really good game. I think Brisbane, Sophie Conway is the way I've gone with. When Conway's getting a lot of the ball, Brisbane look really damaging. Didn't have the greatest grand final last year, in all honesty, just the 8 touches. So I'd expect more from Conway this year. Obviously, All-Australian is either the best on ground or one of the best two on ground for Brisbane, or is well down the list. There's no really good game, but not in the best. It's either top or nowhere to be seen. But so I've gone with Sophie Conway to be their best. Obviously, the main pick from Brisbane would be Ali Anderson, who played fantastic last year. Natalie Grider is another that played really well last year. First goal kicker, Kangaroos, I've gone Alice O'Loughlin. Kicked a couple early last week in the prelim. Did kick one last year in the grand final as well, so has performed on this day. Not their main goal kicker, but certainly their second best goal kicker for the season. So yeah, I've gone with her to kick the first. And then for Brisbane, I've gone the obvious pick, Taylor Smith, leading goal kicker this season in the AFLW. Gone with her. I think she's probably the obvious pick, but I think Kangaroos will win. My main pick is Ash Riddell and Alice O'Loughlin for the award for best on ground and first goal kicker. So that's how I see Saturday night going. Hopefully is a cracker. If you're still with me, I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, this rundown of AFLW Grand Final. It should be a cracker. It's Saturday night. Check it out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you for being here. Go check out the socials at All Aussie Rules everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Blue Sky, Threads. We've got it all. Go check it out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. What else do I have to say? Probably not a whole heap else. Next week's episode 79, will be AFLW Grand Final review. We'll be having a look at player ratings for every player in the Grand Final. We'll be having a look at the Premiership team. We'll be looking at everything AFLW Grand Final related. From now on, we're down to one episode a week. It's going to be coming out midweek every week, so Wednesday every week until January-ish, probably mid-January, and then we'll go back to 2 episodes a week from that point onwards, probably, as we build up towards AFL Men's Season 2025. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you come back next week after the Grand Final has been played to see all the best players, in my opinion. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, don't forget to like, comment, and definitely hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch yous on the next one.